So it is 6 o'clock, October 7th, 2013. We'll now open the meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. For everyone's knowledge, this meeting is being doubly recorded. First item on the agenda, or second item, public concerns, non-agenda items. I believe that's Mr. Bader and...
Yeah, Kevin and I.
Oh, okay. Do you want to come up?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when the sign-in sheet comes around, you can just note that you're here.
Say your name for the record.
Kevin Mulligan, M-U-L-L-I-G-A.
Excellent, thanks.
And I've talked to a couple of you about this already. We want to replace the wooden stairs over in Bader Park, actually right on the other side of the parking lot here. I believe those have been in there for about 15 years or so.
Yeah, but they've been replaced once already.
Right. What we have in mind is to have a precast concrete stairway, which I already have a bid from Flag Palmer for, and basically take out the old piers, excavate the spot, grade it properly, and probably put in some footers. And then Flag Palmer will have a boom truck and basically come out here and lower it with the crane right into place.
It's precast, you said?
Yeah, precast concrete. We like this idea not only because it's actually cheaper than buying the wood. You won't believe what 8x8 piers cost these days. But having the precast means we don't have to mix any concrete on site. It's probably the cleanest way to do this too. And it's actually a lot less labor for me, so I like that. So that's basically our plan. I have the original plans that they did for the park back in the 90s.
Okay.
And I also sent you the quote and the schematic for the stairway, the precast stairway.
Okay, so the park was built in the 90s? Ish?
Yeah, early 89, 90s, it was started in earnest. Bill Cannon made the original plans, and I took his plans and...
He made us plenty of copies here.
Here's the project.
The original site plan, and there's actually two of these if you guys want to share. And there's actually a second set of plans which details the stairway as it exists now. The major change is going to be the precast stairs only come in 10 feet widths, and the stairs that are in there now, I believe, are 14 feet, so it's actually going to be a little bit smaller. Yeah.
And we're eliminating the bottom stair because it's too close to the water.
Right. There's been some erosion there, I guess, because of the water rising over, I'm not sure what period of time. So
Yeah, it has risen since we put the steps in, for some reason, I don't know.
Okay. So we have in mind to leave that dirt there and then possibly add like a 3-inch concrete slab at the edge of the water because a lot of people fish off there. So, but again, I'm going to try to do whatever works best as far as the pond and not disturbing the shoreline any more than it's already been disturbed. So we are open to any suggestions and advice from everybody. So that's our story. Questions?
I imagine we'll have to put a sedimentation barrier of some sort to the shoreline.
Yeah, it's only about, I guess, a 16-foot section, so we can definitely protect the water along there. We're going to stay above the water line with the excavation, so.
My biggest concern is the proximity to the water itself.
Right.
That's a very popular spot, I mean, actually for fishing.
Right.
Sure, no, I understand, and I understand the need to replace them. Did you do any permitting with the Conservation Commission back when the park was initially built?
I can't remember back that far, but I mean, I imagine we had to have some kind of permitting. Yeah.
I mean, I would...
We did work with the Conservation Commission, I know that.
I did not have a chance to check our files. Hopefully, if there's something, we still have it in paper copy.
I know they made us put different plantings along the shoreline there.
Okay, so let's...
Yeah, I think if there would be any seepage in the water, it's going to be the dirt that's already there, which is obviously already been being intermixed. And then when we're done and when the steps are in, we'll backfill everything very carefully and we'll set it up so that the water that gets graded away and that there won't be any more erosion problems with it. So.
Can I?
Yeah.
Would you go before you have questions you can ask them?
So the stairs, are they kind of the precast ones that you would use just for a residence where,
Exactly.
it's like a big triangle thing?
Yeah, they're similar to those. I actually know Flag Palmer because I had bulkhead installed in my first home in Brimfield.
Yep.
And it basically involved excavating the side of the house and a separate company cutting the hole in the wall, and then they came out with the boom truck and dropped it right into place, and you just secured it with a couple of bolts. So I've had good experience with them. It's one of the reasons I suggested it to John.
Okay, so they're 42 inches high. And is there any pier or foundation that goes below that, or is it just this?
The problem is to really do anything underneath it. I'm gonna put some footers in it, but we're only gonna have about a foot of earth to work with, so I'm gonna have to spread the weight out over probably the width of the stairway, because we're gonna be hitting the water table if we go any deeper than a foot at that point, so.
Okay, so you're going to excavate and keep it above the water level so that it won't
Exactly.
dewatering.
And then I'll put some footers in, depending on where we actually land with it, but I can't only go so deep with those guys, so. I probably want to get some more information as far as how much this guy weighs. I haven't gotten back to Alan about this yet, so. And then figure out exactly what we can determine there. But the earth over there is actually pretty solid for being next to a pond. So I was actually over there today checking it in the rain, so.
Yeah, when we first put those in, we ran into all kinds of stones there, the concrete,
Okay.
colprovia.
So we'll have some digging to do.
Colprovia, yeah, we had to break through with pickaxe. Yeah.
Given the history of the area, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, there's not too many trees or anything too close to us. I'm hoping we won't build too many tree roots, but it's been a few years and we know how those things go. When I did the one in Brimfield, I think that guy was actually only 3 feet wide. I didn't even put concrete footers under it. The earth was able to handle the load on it.
Yeah, the thing I was more concerned about was the amount of excavation and
Right.
dewatering or anything like that.
Well, what we'll do is put the earth aside up on the edge of the park. We'll obviously have the work area marked off so nobody uses it during the few days we're there. And then we'll use that to backfill, and anything that's left over, we'll either spread along the park, someplace, or I'll just take it out of there and use it in my yard.
So you think the construction duration is about 3 or 4 days?
I'm thinking, yeah, like I said, a couple days for excavation, then we'll have the day to actually place things. And I did talk to Joe at the building department about this. He was actually the guy who suggested talking to you guys. And his only suggestion was put a handrail on it because there isn't one that's there now. And I think we can pretty easily accomplish that. He doesn't want anything fancy, just 2x4s and something secured in the ground next to it.
When would you be thinking about doing this?
I would like to do this before the winter freeze, and I know we're pushing the time frame with you guys, but the quote I have from Flag Palmer is good to the end of the year, but obviously late December is not a good time to be digging in the ground, so I had an early November time frame, but I understand if I'm pushing things here. And we're fully prepared to wait till the spring, but the situation over there is pretty bad, and we'd like to address it as soon as we can.
No questions, this is just, they're gonna do erosion controls.
Okay, so, I
It's all
guess,
hand dug, I'm sorry. You're hand digging everything?
Yeah, we're gonna handle everything, so we'll be very careful. We might get out the sawzall and whatnot to get through any tree roots or anything, but
It's pretty clear cut, I mean.
Exactly.
it's already,
Once
already in
it's
place
existing,
anyway.
yeah.
once we take the old piers out, you have to dig in stone floors, so, yeah. And we'll chainsaw those guys and then dispose of them properly.
So I guess, I think I could be comfortable with an RDA if the erosion, if it's, all the work is above the water line and it's a straw wattle and silt fence.
Okay.
Or a straw bale and
All
silt
right,
fence.
we can do that.
My concerns would be soil stabilization in the adjacent area. So coming up with a plan to stabilize that before, or
Yeah,
protect that
definitely. It would
surface.
probably take coming back a couple times, and it would all be tamped down, and then I would watch it for a few weeks and backfill as necessary until I'm sure everything is stable there.
how do other people feel?
Yeah, I think we have to keep it open until the spring, just to have any spring plantings, any of this grass required, 'cause it's not gonna grow now, so
Yeah.
we get to go back and...
RDA versus NOI.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
RDA, this is an RDA for me.
Okay,
So our next meeting is the 28th.
all right.
Do you have a schedule handy?
Well, the legal notice has to be in Well, the application would need to be in by next Monday, so Tuesday, because Monday is a holiday.
Okay.
So-
And then legal notice would have to run the Monday before the 28th, which would be the 21st. So you would need to get to the Hampshire Gazette your ad
Right.
on, I'd say no later than Wednesday the 16th,
That shouldn't be
in
a
order to
problem.
get it in time.
Okay.
And there's the sample, I think I sent you.
I've been on the
all-
website,
yeah.
I've actually been on the website.
You have all those
Looked at
PDFs, so
three of
there's
them,
the sample legal ad, all you just need to do is plug in your information,
Great.
and I think the cover sheet gives you all the contact information.
We can
how to get it
definitely
in.
have the RDA by next week for you guys too.
So you'd want the paperwork by Tuesday, by the 15th. That's
Yes,
sufficient, right?
because Monday's a holiday for us.
A week is sufficient for the board, right, to review,
Yeah,
for an RDA,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, especially since we are,
talking.
yes.
Right.
So,
So can you do that, Kevin? Can you
Yeah.
get me, okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
okay.
All right.
So we'll pencil you in and confirm it when we get the paperwork.
Great. That sounds good.
So
Thank you
the
all.
legal ad, you should advertise it for 6 PM
Okay.
In this,
for October 5th, for
October
October
28th.
28th.
And we want to advertise in the Gazette, correct?
Sign it.
All right. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we have no public hearings or meetings, no request for certificate of compliance. Move on to enforcement orders regarding 37 South Street, EO 2013-001.
Easier to see what we're doing there. Brought a clean copy.
Thank you.
And hopefully dry.
Plastic bags,
We're here to talk about the enforcement order for Mr. Waller property on South Street. I submitted the narrative as well as a revised plan showing what we're suggesting as a plan of action for this area. And again, to keep the project simple as previously done, have to separate into 3 areas, not that they're necessarily segregated, but it made it easier to talk about. Area 1 is this area in here, which was primarily within a buffer zone and riverfront area. I think we had a discussion that we felt that it was an ongoing maintenance scenario, that there's really going to be no replication mitigation associated with it. But we are suggesting that conditions be placed on that area, that no further alterations, stockpiling materials can take place, no grading. It will be continued to be mowed on a periodic basis. No fertilizers and no herbicides will be allowed to be placed in that area for Area 1. Area 2 was the area on the north side of the pond, which is essentially the dam area, sort of suggesting breaking it up into 4 different smaller areas. The central area, which is labeled Area 2B, is essentially the emergency spillway. It's an excavated channel, goes up to a dry culvert. To the area to the, my directions right, west of that is really not part of the dam structure. In my opinion, we can just let that area lay fallow, not too worried about growth in that area, and let it revegetate and natural growth take place in that location, and just leave it be, not going to mow it, not going to maintain it, and let it revegetate similar to what's seen on the rest of the westerly side of the pond. The area where the emergency spillway is, my opinion as an engineer, that's an absolute critical part of a dam. It's got to be well maintained, it's got to function in a storm. We're suggesting that that will be continued to be mowed twice a year, not every day. It will be mowed with residential style lawnmowers. We're not talking about taking a brush hog in there or a tractor. but a residential type lawnmower, a push lawnmower, or a small riding lawnmower. But we're suggesting it be mowed twice a year. It's got to be kept down, it's got to be clear and functioning. I'd like to jump over to the far easterly side, which is essentially the access from the site to the outlet control structure. The entire dam, the entire river stream empties in that one basin. That has to be maintained, it has to be accessed.
What area is this, area 2D?
Area 2D, yes. Same thing, they've got to get down there, they got to look at that structure. It needs to be looked at before storms, after storms, sometimes during storms. Same type of scenario, we feel that really should be well maintained, got to get down there. So we're also suggesting an area mowed twice a year. Again, residential style mowers. The area between, not to make this thing a patchwork quilt, it's not really crucial on a day-to-day basis. We're suggesting that we could let that grow, some growth in there, approximately once every 2 years. We'll mow it down. We don't want any large woody growth in there which could impact the integrity of the dam, so we're suggesting once every 2 years, let's keep the large woody growth down, come in and mow it down once every 2 years. Again, this entire area would not receive any herbicides, would not receive any fertilizers at all. In addition, there are some large trees on here, which in my opinion should not be there. Those should be taken out. But I do understand that this is an enforcement order. This is not a notice of intent. And I think if we took those out, we would be adding work to previously work already there. So we're full understanding that in the future, if those trees are to come out, the proper applications and approvals will be required from the Conservation Commission prior to any work being done other than what we're discussing at this time. So I think that's our approach for this location. This area up here, which we call Area 3, where the driveway and a partial portion of a garage and some plantings that occur based upon a site visit. Again, we're looking at two scenarios, or three scenarios, where the actual garage and the gravel driveway are today. We're proposing to maintain that same use. The garage is going to stay, the driveway is going to stay as it is and continue to be that use. The area to the north really wasn't altered too much by this project, but we did note there was an abandoned car there and there's a little bit of debris in that location. We were proposed taking the abandoned car out, removing any debris that had to be stacked in that location. And then in the area to the west, there, the bright circles you saw were just me drawing things around myself from the aerial photograph. They're not actual, we didn't go out there and measure those. But there's obviously planted burning bush, large size, 5-6 foot height burning bush out there. From the aerial, I counted about 20. We would propose removing those, talk to the landscape architects in our office, that is better to take the entire thing out, don't cut them off, they can come back up. The small backhoe, move the shrub with a backhoe, including root ball. There was a tree of heaven, I don't know how it got there, but we would propose to take that out the exact same way, just remove it with a small backhoe. And we would replace it with about 20 small trees, indigenous trees, red maple, sugar maple, sweet birch, river birch, and would also like the commission to be a little bit flexible on our planting plan to possibly intersperse that with either some white oak or red oak as well. We propose to have that planting, after it's planted, put down straw, not hay, just to keep erosion. We're not proposing to rip everything up, so we're not proposing any other plantings. Again, this whole area would not receive any herbicides or fertilizers, and based upon the original enforcement order criteria, would be monitored for 2 years by a competent environmental person to send the commission a statement a year from now and 2 years from now reporting on the success of this growth. I also wanted to note that the planting plan that we have is a little intense for really forestry planting. I just want the commission to realize that 5 years, 8 years down the road, there will be too many trees there, some of them will die off, so we're not anticipating all 20 of these trees to reach full maturity, so if we come back in 10, 15 years, I don't think all 21 trees will be there. Some of them will overtake some. Within a 2-year period, I would expect all these trees to be viable.
White oak, red oak, what were the other species you were?
What?
Red and white oak were the only
Red
other
and white
potential
oak.
alternative
Yes.
species you suggested.
And we have the size, 3 to 4 foot height, so we're not the sapling, we're talking about regular 3 to 4 foot height. And that's our suggested plan. We would like to consider. Any questions?
I've got a few questions to start. Does anyone else want to?
Go ahead.
I think with regard to areas 1 and 2, I'm satisfied at this point. So I'm focusing on area 3. And my first question is, what is I do not see it, I see the size at planting, but I don't see the recommended spacing. What is the spacing? Because
It's,
how many
place
feet
in
on
there,
center?
it's about 16 feet on center, is what the approximate scale was.
1/6.
16 feet on center.
Oh, see, okay. Now, it's very focused on the area where the burning bushes were planted. This area, within the riverfront area here, has some woody species, but also, especially in the area immediately around the vehicle to be removed. Was that actually driveway, or was that backed off the edge of the driveway? And could that be an area where perhaps the mitigation zone could be swung around and improved as well?
I'll let
We,
Mr. Dahl answer that question.
you wanted the burning bush out, you wanted the other thing out, we already removed them. They're gone. The car is gone. You told me you wanted the car and the burning bush and the tree out, they're gone. We're ready for planting right now.
Okay. Mike, good to know.
Appropriate erosion control is definitely put in until I said that.
And it had to be cleaned up. At the area you were discussing, beyond, right.
area
When we got the car out of there, common sense dictated getting all them briars and everything out of there. And we can add a few trees in there.
I would like to see some trees added in there. And for the record, I am fine with, in the higher, drier areas, which is clearly where we are, incorporating red or white oak, whatever is most viable there, whatever's available.
Well, there's one there already, 7 feet tall. We saved it.
Great.
Right on grade, it's there, natural,
Great, you're ahead of the game.
indigenous to the area.
Like a little port.
So, my other questions, I'm gonna move off that for a second here. What is the monitoring protocol? Are we, I would also like to see the area monitored for the encroachment of non-native invasive species. Burning bushes can pop up from seed for years. I'm still hand pulling the ones I removed. So, they're non-native and invasive for a reason. They are very vigorous. So I would like to see the monitoring protocol include non-native invasive species observation and management within that footprint. And the management will include hand removal, like you said, no herbicides, and off-site disposal. And I'm fine with a 2-year monitoring period.
Now, seeing we know everything's clean, do we want to plant anything under the canopy of the other trees? Or do we want to try to say on the edge of the canopy of the trees that are remaining? The burning bush, there were trees that came over the top from the bottom. I just want to know how close,
Where does the slope be?
right. There's a canopy comes over like 10, 12, 15 feet. Do you want to plant under that canopy or try to stay at the edge of that canopy?
Yeah, my constantly is looking outside the...
Let me ask another question then. Where's the top of the slope relative to this area?
Well, there's larger trees
Understood.
to the left there.
Yeah.
So the The branches are coming over.
The slope is right at the edge of the...
Right, I don't want to see the slope disturbed. It wasn't disturbed before.
Right.
I don't want to disturb an
Oh,
undisturbed
no.
area. So
The only place that is disturbed is where the burning bush were.
Right.
That's it.
And that's where it does begin to slope down towards the water.
right. Okay, that's what I thought.
Right, it's right at the edge of the...
And of course, you get leaners that are leaning into the burning bush. We had to cut those off. I mean, there's no other way of doing it. They're leaning into the trees and they're laying on the burning bush, and we had to prune them back, so to speak.
Did you cut them off at the stump?
Yeah, ground level, I think, would have been a good idea.
Okay, then, before you cut any more trees in riverfront area, please don't. Or we'll just keep...
Well, we didn't need another meeting for that one. I think we could solve it all right now. I mean, what do I do? I mean, the trees are growing into the burning bush. There's no other way to doing it. You can't take the burning bush out, and the trees will flop on the ground. The burning bush was supporting these trees. You ever see that?
You took it out before I had a chance to.
You ever see that happen? Happens all the time. The tree grows this way, and it leans down. On the other trees, when we had the big storms, they're laying right on the burning bush. So, common sense would dictate that you cut them off, take the burning bush out. I've been doing this for 50 years now. This is what I saw. That's what had to be done.
Okay. I would like to see the plan revised to reflect the extension of the mitigation into this area. If you're revising, since you will be revising the plan for that, I would like to see the other two species added to the list. Also add the spacing, recommended spacing installation on there. That will help clarify, I think, for whoever else might be looking at this plan to understand its execution. I would also like to add that I would like to see some photographs of the area, photo document the area as it exists when the saplings are installed. If those could be date stamped, that would be even better. And I will require the submittal of invoices for the saplings or some other documentation verifying the inventory that was installed. And that's independent of the monitoring reports.
That's good.
Okay. I'm glad to hear the car's been removed.
Yes.
A step in the right direction.
That was
Erosion control are we showing here?
That was critical, that the burning bush go and the car go.
And the disturbance has already happened.
So the more disturbance to rip these out and put up more in isn't...
They've already been ripped out. Do you want to see a straw wall staked in around the perimeter of the
I mean, there's going to be...
mitigation area?
When you plant the new trees, there's going to be more digging to put these trees in, correct?
Is there an irrigation plan?
Irrigation plan?
Some sort of, to water them in. We're getting near the end of the growing season, which is actually not the worst thing in the world. And today is obviously not a day to talk about needing water, but, there will be a requirement to replace in kind during the 2-year monitoring period. If anything fails to die.
Yeah, I'm gonna plant some trees on the side of the building, just in case one dies, I'll have a replacement ready.
Is that acceptable in the riverfront area?
Yes. As long as they are the native species from the palate.
Good to know.
Under other circumstances. Okay.
Then no, I mean, I don't think if the area is already disturbed and we're not going to see erosion happening down, then there's no real need for erosion control at this point if it's already disturbed. But if we think during the course of installation of these trees, we're gonna have stockpiling of soil located, in areas, then I would wanna see it. I mean, I don't, I've never done
I
this,
think we
don't
just
know.
say there will be no stockpiling of soil. And that the area will
Excavate the tree
be
in, put it right back immediately.
mulched with straw. When do you think you could get the saplings and put them in?
Within a week.
Within a week? Please notify the commission within 48 hours. Get us the revised plan for our records before that time. And we will schedule a site visit to come out when this is happening.
With the revised monitoring plan.
So you want a 48-hour notice prior to installation?
So that we can schedule a site
Prior to
visit.
the,
During the installation?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
prior to the commencement of work, so that we can know what the schedule is.
Okay.
And revised monitoring plan into the commission before work begins.
Yep, site plan and monitoring
Is
protocol.
there a site plan modification?
Yeah, they're sweeping this over, and because they're making that, they're heading the table. If you could also quantify that area, the footprint of the mitigation area for me?
To be honest with you, that's the limit of, we did it by aerial photograph. I mean,
No, but you're gonna
It's to scale, right? So just tell me
Yeah.
what is the
give
overall
me a
square
footprint
footage?
of that? Thank
Does that indicate property line there, Mark?
the heavy black line is property line.
you. Yeah. Don't want you to go over that.
We're not going that far.
No. I can cut it,
Yeah, I would
cut
say
it around, sweep it over to here, keep it in the riverfront area, the edge of the
no more than
driveway.
20 feet after the corner of the building. I would
Is your
say
property
20
line?
20 feet.
Just because it sounded important, would you define stockpiling of the soil?
Well, it sounds like everything's been ripped out already,
Yeah.
but basically, if a hole needs to be dug
Yeah.
to put the new saplings in,
Right.
and there's excess soil, then it either needs to be spread evenly over the ground surface or taken somewhere else outside Conservation Commission jurisdiction and not just left in a pile to erode or grow weeds.
So stockpiling is just excess piles of
Concentrating excess,
soil?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Normally what you do in that situation is if you dig a hole, you'll have very little. You just rake it around,
Yeah.
That's
That's
fine.
leave it there.
Yep, that's fine, I just don't want to see these mounds of
No,
weeds.
it'll be all smooth and then we'll put our whatever straw on it. What do you got against wood chips?
Nothing, as long as it's.
How about if we
thin
use wood chips instead of straw?
Not if they're burning bush wood chips.
We'll try to stay away from those. You mean you don't want, I chopped them all up, you don't want me to put them back?
enough. Not there. Whatever you want to do over here.
Wood chips seems to hold very well as far as erosion is
Your
concerned.
family loves wood chips, so I'm sure your brother can give you a ton of them.
Wood chips is an acceptable alternative, in my opinion.
I agree.
And what I would do is, if anything's coming up, it's a very simple matter just to take a lopper, cut
As
its
long
head
as it's not
off.
one of the saplings. That's just,
Silly.
okay. I think we're in a good place now. I look forward to the revised documents and getting the phone call or the email or whatever other correspondence regarding the schedule.
One point of clarification, the monitoring of the growth, do you need, anybody can do that? Or do you want someone specially qualified to go out there and look at it? Do you want a wetland specialist or a
Doesn't need
botanist?
to be a wetland specialist. It needs to be someone who knows if trees are dead or alive.
Okay.
It needs to be done during the growing season. And actually, I am going to add one more, I apologize. This says no later than November 1st, 2014 and 2015. I would prefer that that be no later than October 1st. Because if there is a corrective action to be taken, and could you revise that to read November 2015 and not 2105?
I thought we wanted to really long.
I won't worry about that one. But if there needs to be a corrective action, I want the commission to have time to take that action during the growing season.
That should probably also be somebody familiar with what sapling or invasive species looks like.
Yeah, well, we can have other people. I just wondered if you wanted the client to do it or if you wanted somebody else to come on and connect that out to the...
I'd like it to be somebody else. All right.
I think so.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, well, thank you.
Did you check the dam tonight?
Fine. This rain here is nothing. 0.
It's short plan.
You need about 3 inches.
Very good. Thank you all.
Face palm.
Okay, there's actually action, I need to send the letter regarding 67 Leadville Road. I apologize, I have not been able to do that. So let's move on to general business. 417 East Street, Seth Minkle, possible sinkhole. Jay, you went out there.
And Walter.
And Walt, thank you both. His father actually came in and picked up copies of the previous notice of intent filing, site plan, notice of intent narrative and form, as well as the order of conditions, just to kind of give them an idea of what information is available. So it sounds like they want to do the right thing to correct the situation in the right way. They just have to find out what that is. So we may or may not be seeing something in the near future there. If it's a culvert replacement, that's a pretty, because it's a jurisdictional stream, it's not as simple as it sounds. It's not just our jurisdiction, although we will stick to our jurisdiction. But the Corps of Engineers may have to get involved depending on the replacement methodology and design.
What if it's just a fix? Because the one side of it looks plenty
Then it might just
structurally
be
sound.
us.
It just, that one retaining wall may need to be,
Yeah, then that might just be us.
Yeah.
But again, if they're working in the stream, then the Cat 1 versus Cat 2, and
no.
I mean, that's out of our hands at that point. We can't help with that at all. We can only permit under the Wetlands Protection Act. But yeah, if they're not changing the culvert itself, if they're just working around it, then it could just be one set of regulations. Okay, fish ladder update.
I did talk to Jim Gracia today. He said that he asked the contractor to fix the situation. They did bring in, so the silt fence and the hay bales have not been replaced where the excavator went over them, but instead a pile of gravel was put in its
Keystone
place.
there that
Yeah,
they
Payson.
piled up in front of it, so it's much better shape than it was. So.
Is it acceptable to have a pile of Keystone as basically a version of sediment control on an example project?
I know. So for the record, Dan and I both have a conflict of interest and
So it's really just
are
the three
not
of us that are talking on
commenting.
this.
Yeah.
I mean, as it was raining when I was out there, there wasn't any sediment.
Yeah. I've never been on that site, so it's hard to envision.
I mean, there's behind it's all trap rock and things like that. So when I looked at it, I felt comfortable with the Keystone because there's so much of it in the trap rock and it's backing it up.
Yeah.
Quickly, we'll get out of it. There's a lot of rock. Yeah, I mean, I was actually okay in the fact that there wasn't really any sedimentation happening. It just does not look good, but it doesn't. I mean, if it's working, it's working. So ultimately, I'm okay. I'd like to see what it ends up doing after this rainstorm and see if it's still okay. But it's actually ultimately doing its job. So
I'll check it out. I'll go back tomorrow or something and look at it.
I'll swing through there tomorrow too, just to get familiar with it.
Okay.
Moving on. Fall Street Extension, Jillian Estates update.
So they submitted their weekly status reports.
Yeah, I think we should get in touch with them about the rain last night. You know, have somebody go out and check it tomorrow morning, make sure that everything's all copacetic.
Are there any
How's your
issues?
schedule tomorrow morning?
I'm gonna be looking at a dam that's about to fall or have been all weekend. That's not that bad, but I don't need to be there.
Okay, is anyone?
I can take a swing by there.
Well, I mean, we could just ask Marguerite to do it. It's,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's the way to go.
As a commission, though, we should still take a swing.
Yeah, I'll take a swing by. I mean, everything looked great today. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's pretty much tucked in. All the pipes are buried, so there's nothing much to see.
Great.
Okay.
Did you happen to swing by the Easthampton Savings Bank?
Yes. It was full of water.
Yeah,
It's raining.
I did during that downpour, and the hay bales are definitely working.
Oh, good.
It's stopping the flow of water, but that corner gets overwhelmed with water. Like, that was a good, and without, in the future, like, that gets chewed up in the spring and we get rain like that, I don't know if they should think about doing something to slow the water down. Once those hay bales leave, it's gonna turn back
It's gonna
into a
turn the same
I
waterfall.
mean, should they, so, if they don't,
Put a berm in?
I mean, we're just looking at requesting that they armor that slope, that
I'm
section of that slope.
thinking armor. It'll help slow the water down.
Here's the thing. I mean, that's the discharge end of the stormwater basin, and you know, I was looking at the plans, and this is sort of how it was designed, but I don't think anybody, I don't think the designer intended to have that much water going directly into the discharge end of the basin, because it bypasses the check dams and the treatment and the swale and everything. I mean, it doesn't seem like it should be operating that way at all, and just putting in, just armoring the bank, may protect the bank from erosion, but it won't be addressing the treatment question. That's my 2 cents, I guess.
The repair areas of grass is growing and coming in on the repaired areas, so that looks fine.
Yeah, but it seems like every spring it's gonna become an issue, if they plan to put snow in that area.
Yeah. I mean, it would be better to have a curb there, really, because there's a catch basin like right over
Yeah,
here,
it's right there, because it runs right by it.
Yeah,
It runs
so-
right over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The speed of the water's coming so fast on that slope, it's gonna fall down the hole.
yeah, it doesn't
That's
get
what it was doing today.
Yeah.
What kind of curbing do they have around that parking lot where there is curbing?
Just normal tarred curbing,
Is it traditional or is it a Cape Cod?
like that.
Some of us need visuals. Because I don't know the word for the other one.
I'm sure they didn't put curbing there because they didn't want to plow to tear it up and...
Sure, no, I mean, that's understandable, but
Yeah.
But if they do put a curb there and stop short, and if they have to repair the curb, they repair the curb.
Granite curb.
There you go.
Take a plow.
well, that's all. So we're kind of in this weird position where we are foreseeing all these problems, but they're not problems yet. They haven't come for their certificate of compliance. These haven't materialized into problems. So I think we just need to reach out to Mark Reed with in response to weekly reports and
Yeah.
No.
say that we are keeping an eye on these things and,
Now, was it
they want to be
designed properly,
proactive.
or is there a design flaw?
I'm not the...
Right, but that wasn't
Well,
that part of the site visit? We were talking about that, and
Yeah,
Well, I didn't
Dim's
know.
really...
Yeah, I mean, the way this whole thing is supposed to function is that I think the stormwater is supposed to be intercepted in the catch basins right here and, up to the upper end of the swale, so, and it's not.
Yeah. Half the parking lots bypassing now.
Yeah, so whether it's a, slight grading thing or, something, I don't know.
and
But
at this point, it can't be fixed.
Well,
That's a
it
little
can
berm
be
there or
fixed.
something.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's redoing that part of the parking lot.
I mean, it's not even that expensive, it's just, a matter of,
Even a soil berm there that
Yeah,
Made that higher than the driveway by 3-4 inches would just slow things down and get into the catch basin.
So do we want to schedule a site visit with Mark? Or the owners of the?
Yeah, well, Jay and I had that site visit and we spoke about that area. And then he said, well, that's how it is, and it didn't go too far.
So they're proposing, that we're expecting a submission from them for a drain or something.
I'm sorry.
You need visuals, I need noises. Right?
They're org.
I think that's how we're going to come
Yeah,
out
an
with all the
outlet pipe, that's what he was trying to say.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
Through little concrete.
What they talking about that?
doesn't,
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
discharge pipe?
Well, so there's a problem with the draining of the basin, right?
Right.
The
And,
basin's on clay, is what they're telling us.
yeah, so I thought that they were going to propose, or that, yeah, that they were planning to bring in some kind of plan to put in like an outlet pipe to kind of capture.
Slowly.
Can you follow up with
discharge.
Mark Reed on that?
Yeah, I forget what the whole story was there. Let me email myself from it.
Okay. So, are we good with that topic for now? Dan's gonna get in touch with Mark Reed.
And are we going to assume a site visit at this point or no? Just Dan will get
I
in
think-
touch with Marguerite?
I think let Dan get in touch with Mark
Yeah.
Reed and see where we are.
See what their plan is with the discharge pipe.
Okay.
Okay, wasn't Street Mills?
No work on that.
Nothing? Okay. Palmer Meadow Trails, Paul Street CR, they had their pre-construction. Oh, you have
They
the,
have stairs in 2 locations, the stair down and the stair back up.
are there any railings on those?
No, not at this
Yeah.
moment.
Oh, they're going to be?
I don't know.
Yeah, there were some drawn there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're steep.
I mean, that's pretty precarious, you can for sure, but it,
Just as far as they've
That's
gone, at this
right.
point, the bridge is not being started, but they cut some trees up down below just that were dead
Aren't
already.
they clearing a lot of the...
Yeah, clearing the dead stuff. And the city must have come by and plowed that entryway.
plowed?
Well, bulldozed was something, excavated was something that...
Okay.
At the end of Ranch Avenue, there was a berm there. It's all flat.
I believe that PCT called DPW and requested
Yeah.
that if they could remove it.
It looks like it's just been cleaned up, so it looks nice.
Flattened it out.
Yeah.
And it was kind of-
Good, great. So Lower Mill Pond, Millside Park, through the wonder of social media, I became aware that the Parks and Rec Department was going to be doing some vegetation management along Lower Mill Pond.
All right.
So this does, the activity falls within an ongoing condition from the original order for the construction of the park, which is good news. Also part of that order, or that condition, I believe, was a notification to the commission. So,
John is aware, I had a conversation with him today about it.
John Mason?
John Mason, Director of Parks and Rec, so I sent him a copy of the original order, which, you know, to his credit, he's only been here for 2 years. He didn't know that it existed, he didn't know that this was a permit that applied to that area. So he's now aware of it, and he now knows that any future brush maintenance along that area, he just needs to notify the commission. So he's now aware.
Great. I guess before we move on to anything else,
I think we've got NSA and wiretapping.
so the commission was copied on a cease and desist from the health agent to,
What's the score? What's the date?
this is
Last Thursday,
The
wasn't it?
Shelton Brothers.
October,
Oh,
it's dated
yeah.
October 7th, Shelton Brothers
Oh, Shelton
Distributors at 180.
Yeah, I know.
So the beer places.
Yeah, so
Why were we copied? Did you just-
well, because they were dumping it into a
Right.
storm drain.
Like it discharges to a water body.
Right, most likely. I had a conversation with David Fallis at Mass DEP about this because basically it's not likely at present, a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act or the Clean Water Act. Clean Water Act would be discharge of dredge or fill material. It's a liquid. Wetlands Protection Act, the likely violation, if the beer did in fact get all the way through the system and discharge to a resource area or lower mill pond, would be some sort of change in the biochemical
Chemistry.
of the pond or of the receiving body, which would be very difficult to prove. It'd be difficult to quantify. You know, in my mind, if the catch basin's dry, it's just infiltrating, most likely. That catch basin, like given the location and what we know from the Pleasant Mills project, likely gets piped into one of those linear wetland systems that are connected by pipe to pipe to pipe to the pond. So again, I think it's something to be cognizant of, but I don't think there's any action on the commission's part. If they start, discharging tankerfuls, then, they've got other problems, but. So other than, a few jokes.
So yeah, I think it counts as an illicit discharge into the stormwater ordinance, and I think the Board of Health has authority there, so.
Yeah, because I looked through the stormwater, and I have to say I went through it quicker than I probably should have, but a lot of it has to do with just land disturbance. I didn't see anything in there about illicit dumping, but I must have oversaw it.
There's a companion illicit discharge ordinance.
Right.
That would be.
Right.
And I totally haven't even looked at that one in age.
Okay.
But I think the Board of Health is kind of.
She's on top of it.
Yeah, if they're on top of it, then I think that's fine.
And I don't know if there's been any correspondence from the landowners themselves or the tenants. These are tenants within that building, so.
So then a few more things that came in after the agenda was finalized. Has there been anything, I haven't gotten any phone calls about 301 East Street. So I'm not doing anything about it.
What was it again?
301 East Street is the parcel adjacent to the former West Coolidge development at 311 East Street.
Oh, right. Yes, I have not heard anything, but that was about the closing?
Yes.
No, I have not heard anything.
Okay, so Jessica was contacted by an
By
attorney.
attorney, they're trying to close, they're trying to sell the property. The buyer's attorney noticed that there was an order of conditions dated from 2005 and wanted to know whether now that it's expired, can they just forget about it and not worry about it in terms of the closing. Then there was a second one that was filed in 2008. Each of them had different addresses. The first one was addressed as 301 East Street, but all of the development on the plans were at 311. And then the second order that was amended from 2008 said 311 East Street. So there's, I think, paperwork clerical errors possibly, but...
I think one of the things I noticed was they used the map and lot reference of one of the parcels and the street address of the other.
Right, and so the street address that they used was 301, which is the parcel they're trying to sell, and there's no...
But the work was on the...
And the work was on the other parcel. So I think part of it's a clerical error in the application and the order, and so it's messing up the closing, and so I told the attorney that he could contact the commission directly if he had any other concerns, but...
And I have not yet received any contact from them.
They were not happy.
So,
They love you.
I received a... That you're not happy?
No, I'm just not going to put that in the minutes. If it comes up in the future minutes. That's far too confusing.
I can explain it on the phone if you need me to.
I'm trying to remember if that was something that I knew about and I can't figure it out.
Not Thomas Davis.
I remember something. I remember he proposed residence, just one residence.
No,
This
This is the 55 plus condos that off and on, permits expired, permits were granted again.
Lawsuits against the city.
Oh, God.
But next to the Kulig thing.
So there are two parcels that were in the initial application. One was, it has an address of 301, and it's
On the north side
it's
of
just
the
like a parcel like this, and then the rest of the development is over here.
Oh.
So this is 301, this is 311. The order in 2005 had 301 as the address, but all the development was over here on 311. The second order in 2008 used the address of 311 and had all the development on this side. So now somebody's trying to buy this parcel because
Did they
want to
come in a
redevelop it.
couple weeks ago?
No, a couple months ago, they came in. They were trying to, there's a house on it, right? They're
That's
trying
the
to.
abandoned
There's an
house.
old barn.
There
an old
was,
abandoned
it's a
barn.
house
Yeah.
and a barn.
And they came in.
Yeah,
Tear it down and make it into two
All right.
properties.
Okay.
They want to turn it
There.
into multifamily.
Gotcha.
Okay, stop laughing.
Oh, wait.
Okay, and then there was a phone call, so the large field / wet meadow, Fedor's property on Northampton Street, that suggests that the field had been mowed very short recently, which, if true, is outside the agricultural use. They were, when we did the whole enforcement action there, they were, in light of haying activities, agricultural use, they were told they could brush hog the field. Once in the spring, once in the fall, and this is not brush hogging, this is like football field. So I will review the file and see if there's a potential violation. Because it is a wet meadow, if they're not haying it, it's not in agricultural use. Theoretically, it only needs to be in agricultural use once every 5 years, essentially to maintain that 5-year cycle.
Once every 5 years.
That's like a worst case wiggling around the regulations sort of approach, but I could see that happening in certain situations in town. So if the land has been in agricultural use, if the land has been fallow for more than 5 years, then any alteration on that land, including agricultural alterations, need to go through the full permitting process again. If it's been in agricultural, if it hasn't been fallow for 5 years, then the agricultural use exemption could still be applied. Based on the site plan, the delineation and the site plan from that enforcement action a couple of years ago, 80% of that field is wet meadow, vegetated wetland, bordering on the stream at the south end that then flows through a culvert and down below the post office property. So the commission definitely has a lot of jurisdiction on that property.
Was it, was the cuttings baled and taken or
I
anything?
don't know. I don't know. That wasn't documented. So anyway, just another thing we need to look at. Meeting minutes.
It's a copy that I need from the email today.
Thank you.
Everyone okay with these? Sure. So move that we approve the meeting minutes for September 13th, 2003.
I'll second the motion.
2013?
September 23rd.
What year?
September 23rd, 2013.
I'll still second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And then one last thing to mention.
I have something too. MACC dues. Got the invoice. So we need to make some changes because we have members that have left and we have members that have joined. So the cost is $374 for all of the commissioners and then including myself. So everybody still needs it, I guess is my first question. And then the budget, we only have $250 set aside for dues and membership, so I'm gonna need to pull from your education and training pot in order to pay for this. And I just wanted
Fair
to
enough.
make sure that was okay with you before I did that.
So for our next budget, should we be upping that?
Yes,
So
we
because
should.
we now have more members?
Now we have more members, so
Great.
we should now be definitely upping that in the next budget, so let's remember that in the next budget round, that we wanna probably at least set aside $400 for dues and membership.
Is that coming up, the next budget round?
I'll probably start hearing stuff in around January or so, February, for us to start filling out papers.
So do we have to complete anything, or do you have all the
No, I think
information you need?
I'm just gonna take Kelly off and I can add you and I can find your address in the phone book. That's not a
Okay.
problem. I might still need your phone number though. We can talk after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get one, like on my front step, it's just every 6 months before I'm like, oh.
Oh, and then one more thing. This is more for Wally and Jerry, or anybody else really, but there's a lot of different conferences and workshops that you have access to as a member. So once you get your membership, you can get reduced rates, and if there's money still left over, then the city can pay for you to attend these workshops. So I'll leave that with you.
They actually put on a very decent annual environmental conference. Usually last weekend in February, first weekend in March at Holy Cross in Worcester.
Oh, okay.
Lots of workshops or the fundamentals units.
I'll probably go to that this year. So,
this isn't really something the commission's done in my memory of it. But I think, I guess I'd like to put out there that how others feel about formally electing officers. Jess was saying that most municipal boards do that in January. I'm fine with waiting until then. But also kind of segueing into, there may be the need for me, I may not be able to attend some meetings, I don't know when, but family medical situation that may or may not, I don't know, go to the next level. I don't know when it will, but so someone, I guess if someone wants to volunteer themselves to run the meetings, if I'm unable to attend, that would be great. That way we're not scrambling. I don't have to be thinking about it. Jess doesn't have to think about it.
but also somebody who's willing to be a point of contact as
Right.
well. When, we have a lot of walk-ins and applicants that have questions, and so Melissa and I probably talk on a daily basis, multiple times.
Depends on the day.
And Dan's got his finger in his
Dan's
nose with
coming.
a knot already.
And to be fair, I will probably still be available and looking forward to distractions like that.
Still do not. I
But
probably should have
definitely-
put that in there.
But definitely need someone who is willing to field and run meetings.
Do what I can do, but I just, I don't know the regulations and things like that, so.
And I, if I can still, depending on how things happen, I can still respond. I just may not be the best point of contact at that time.
Okay, all right.
So if the answer is, I'm going to have to get back to you,
Right,
then
that's an answer.
that's an answer.
Yeah.
And that's the best answer we can give. So,
And I
give
give
it a
it
shot.
all the time.
thank you. And what?
And I give it all the time. I think you're gonna need to do X, Y, Z, but you need to check.
So, good, great, thank you. Anything else?
You thought you were gonna be retired.
Yeah. Wait a minute, we don't need a conservation agent.
Yes, we do.
Oh, actually, yes, we do. But, did anyone have a chance to look at the open space, the draft open space plan?
I have
The
not.
link went out?
Yes.
Have that. We
Okay.
have until the end of the month, right?
End of the month.
So look, there goes another ball interrupt.
I'll take it on my vacation and read it in the plane.
That's what does it for you, sure.
It's riveting reading. Riveting.
Actually, someone was telling me how impressed they were with how much information was in there. Like, how fascinating they found the information.
Well, that's good. I have to say, I've actually been referencing it quite a bit in the past week and a half.
Cool. All right, so with that, all right,
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Hi.
So moved. All right. Thank you, and sir, if you wouldn't mind signing in for the